Thank you and good afternoon. It must be the mayor's hour, and I want to thank my dear friend Pete Buttigieg, who is, it's funny, we lead kind of parallel lives. If you look at our resumes, we're both mayors. We are both lucky enough to be Rhodes Scholars. We're both veterans of the Navy. We both play the piano. So the only question left is, would you rather be younger or have a bigger city? And I don't know, they kind of counterbalance each other. But my wife's from Indiana, and so we claim him as one of our own. And let's give him another round of applause and thank him. It's always great to have a fellow brother, mayor, sailor, pianist here together. And thank you, Mark, for the introduction and for your friendship. It has been tremendous to see how far we have come in just 3.5 years in this city. And I've spoken a few times at the Upfront Ventures Summit over the last 3 years, but this is my first time here at the Investor Summit. And I'm sorry that you're in a tent on such a beautiful day. We should make it a convertible because it is gorgeous outside right now. But it's such a good time to be here, to talk about how cities are moving this nation and this world forward, and how Los Angeles is right there at the front of the line with those cities that are constantly reimagining and rethinking what the future looks like. LA, in tech terms, is now the third largest startup ecosystem in the world, and the fastest growing one in America. Last year alone, there's almost $6 billion that investors put into more than 600 companies here in the LA metro area. That's up from $2.5 billion in 2013 when we started tracking this. And today, a recent report that we put out, Los Angeles County now has the most technology jobs of any county in America, which is an astounding statistic. And our technology landscape is one of the most diverse in America. You can start in energy tech and go to biotech, from biotech to entertainment tech to video gaming to digital tech, aerospace. You have all of these options, both as a workforce, as investors, to really mine that talent and that entrepreneurial spirit here in a town where more than 1 out of every 200 people is an entrepreneur. By the way, as a side note, not to get political or anything like that, but it's kind of unavoidable these days, 61% of our startups on our main streets are actually started by immigrants. I was with one of them this weekend, yeah. That deserves, I think it's just important for us to know as we think about our values. And one of them this weekend I was with my friend Elon Musk, who we put together an amazing mile-long tube that finally was the first competition of pods for the Hyperloop concept. And it was fitting that he, an immigrant who came to this country and became a naturalized citizen, competitors from around the country and around the world from different educational institutions were literally making history in a city that has been used to doing that in the space and the aerospace arenas. This is a town that helped launch the first space age and now is redefining it. This is a tech capital where we sent the first email from UCLA up to Berkeley. In world history. This is a place where we've always been telling the stories, too, of humanity, and as technology has moved to incorporate not just hardware and software, but content, you are here in a city that arguably is the content capital of the world. And I want to thank the folks who have been part of my kitchen cabinet on technology. We put together a Tech and Innovation Council back in 2014 with leaders in nonprofit, venture capital and financing, and the entrepreneurial space. Folks who hadn't really been, at least here in this city, to our City Hall. And we opened up the doors of City Hall to say, this is yours. Use this as a convening space. Use this as a place to find capital. Use this as a place to find human capital. And also use this as a platform to experiment on. So while I watch some mayors in the world as change happens be future phobic and try to kind of wall off your city from the changes that are coming, others be future passive and say, well, it's going to happen. Some are excited, some are bummed about it. I've kind of taken a different pathway to say, let us together be future guiding. Let us sit down with rideshare companies and figure out a way to get to yes and also help troubleshoot the political issues that they might face. How we can get together with Airbnb and other home sharing platforms and say, what can we do to make sure that people who stay here also help pave our streets, but that we don't say you can't do that to individuals who want to have an entrepreneurial option for their own properties. What can we do to take the amazing platform of this town where we control the largest port in America, where together with the Port of Long Beach, 43% of all the goods come into America. So if you've got a great idea like a company did here, Cargomatic, to match truck drivers with the containers coming off ships, instead of talking about it, why not test it right here. They said, really, you'd test it? And I said, absolutely. So now they can sell that product around the world to ports around the globe. We have the busiest airport now in the world of origination and destination, meaning more people begin and end their trip in LAX than any airport in the world. And the largest municipal utility, as well as all these streets and traffic sensors and all these things that we've said, this is yours. We're going to collect this data, we're going to share this data, and vice versa. Companies are doing that with us as well. This is also a town that has 3 top 25 universities, the only city in America to have that, a place where we graduate more engineers than any region in the country. But just 3.5 years ago, 70% of those top engineers were leaving LA to work in companies elsewhere. Getting together the chancellors and presidents of those universities and colleges, we've reversed that, and 70% of them are staying here. Recently talked to a CEO just footsteps away from where we are in downtown LA who said, I had 2 grads, engineering grads from USC who turned down Harvard and MIT because they said, I want to be in LA because of the companies that are there. So we've got amazing peer cities around the country that we work closely with, but LA is no longer a kind of second-tier city. We're right there at the front, and our growth is more rapid than almost anywhere else. So, you know, it's not just people who want to join a hot startup, they want to join a hot LA startup increasingly when you talk to those students. And we've also placed entrepreneurs in residence within city government because it was very important for me to not just make policy, but also to have that policy driven by all of you, those people who understand how business works, so that we've reduced our city's business tax here at the same time we raised the minimum wage. So that in the city we could look at things like investing in the human infrastructure we need and the physical infrastructure alongside each other. One example was we held our first tech jobs fair just last week. We hoped a couple thousand job seekers and employees and engineers would come out, and a couple dozen companies. 275 companies and 13,000 people later, we held what was the largest tech jobs fair in Los Angeles history, way surpassing our expectations, with those incredible companies like SpaceX and like Tesla and like the ones that are just brand new, a week or 2 old. We also have here a remarkable kind of bench now that almost 50% of startup employees in LA have previous startup experience. So this is an arena now where that human capital is being shared. And today, this is really kind of an LA moment in so many ways. 12% of all early stage US-based startups are in LA. That was a statistic almost a year old. We're just behind New York at 14% and Silicon Valley at 24%. But given the rate of increase this year, we should probably pass New York and be second only to Silicon Valley. And venture funding here more than doubled in the last 3 years. We've seen more than 300 acquisitions, including that of Dollar Shave Club for a staggering $1 billion, 11 IPOs with Snap on its way. But if you look at it in the LA area, it's been 41 IPOs to be exact, over 1,200 acquisitions, and over $15 billion of investments just in the last 3 years. So when we look at that, it is an incredible, I think, referendum. It's an incredible kind of plebiscite in favor of the work that we're doing right here. And another reason why I think LA is so popular, I talked to one CEO recently, a couple years ago, of Riot Games, some of you may know Brandon, and he said, where else could I be? I need to be in every country in the world. And here, the most diverse collection of human beings and a quick jumping off point to their countries of origin exists right here in LA. This is the most diverse collection in human history of cultures and languages. Over 200 languages spoken, over 100 countries of origin. 39 countries have their largest population outside their home country in LA. So this is the largest population of Armenians outside of Armenia, Guatemalans outside of Guatemala, Thais outside of Thailand. The list goes on and on. In some cases, it's the second biggest city of people of descent, including the home country. Mexico City is the, of course, most populous city of people of Mexican descent. LA is number 2, and then you return to Mexico for number 3. So those staggering kind of cultural brew that we have, together with the intellectual foundation of over 100 institutions of higher learning, you invest your dollars here in LA and it will work. And so like the old cliche we used to say about New York, which still is true in New York, but if you can make it here, you can make it anywhere. And if you can make your product or service succeed in LA, it's almost like you're testing it in beta on the entire world in one place. So we want to continue to not just survive, but to thrive, to look at the ways that we can make LA one of the great tech hubs of the world, this northern capital of Latin America, this western capital of the United States, this eastern capital of the Pacific Rim. And I hope that you all will continue to bet big. We love, for those of you who are visiting, we love the connections that we have with cities around this country and around the world. But we also love what's growing up here, and we invite you to be a part of it. If you're lucky and smart enough to have an LA-based investment or company, good on you. If you don't yet, you have to make sure that you have this market covered because it is growing, it is critical, and this ecosystem is a place that you need to be. So I want to thank everybody for the work that they are doing. And the last thing I'll say is, in these tough times when it seems like the world is kind of shifting underneath us, I think those core values of what unites us is so important to reaffirm. Just before I was with the Hyperloop pod competition, I was over at LAX airport. We were trying to reunite families who were separated by the recent executive orders that took people into detention. And like Mayor Buttigieg, I've worn this nation's uniform, defended its values. We are always stronger when we recognize our place and our engagement in the world. Whether it's our attempt to bring the Olympics home to America in 2024, whether it's the way that we look that when people have legal status, their wages go up 40%, and that helps all of our wages go up 1% or 2%, because nobody's working under the table or for less than minimum wage illegally. We recognize that there are parents here that have temporary legal status, but their kids, 50,000 of them, are serving in the United States military. I hope that this is a time in which the business community, together with all of us, can remember those values, who we are, and what we are about. Do not cede the power you have before you exercise it, whether that's financially, morally, or politically. And I know that if that is the case, our best days here in LA and here in this country are yet to come. Thank you all so much, and have a great summit. Appreciate it.